Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Try Again, the creative power of setbacks. My name is Christoph Gröner, festival director here, and I have the pleasure and to welcome a well-traveled man, and please join me in welcoming him. His journey started here, but he just came back from Los Angeles and New York from the US, and that's one part of the story. Please welcome with me a wonderful screenwriter, Moritz Binder. It's kind of a tricky situation.
Hi, hello. Thanks for having me.
Well, it's wonderful. It's wonderful that you agreed to talk about setbacks, because filmmaking, of course, is not a journey of pure pleasure, but it's a journey of hardship. And if it works out, it is an extremely gratifying experience in the end. Let's start by the last days. No, let's start by introducing yourself, because that's what you said you wanted, or I don't have to go through the whole catalog that you wrote. Rather, you would say some words about how you came to the passion of screenwriting and film.
Well, it started obviously with a setback. And I have to say, thanks for showing up today. I'm really nervous because putting a writer on the stage is pretty brave for a festival. So I'm not very used to that, but yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. Yeah, it started with a setback and like multiple setbacks, because I actually had to apply 4 times to study here. I studied here at the university in Munich, and I studied documentary actually, and then it shifted a little bit to writing, and now I'm a screenwriter.
We know each other for a little bit already. You started with documentary while being this total genre aficionado. So was it a kind of, you want to make the break into film school no matter what, and it is the easiest way to go in? Or is that a second part of you, that the documentary world or hybrid world or exploring identities or personalities or whatever interested you very much?
Well, it was kind of a journey. When I applied for the first time, I applied for directing, like feature films. And then when that didn't work out, I started working as a journalist, a TV journalist. And this is where I discovered my love for like real stories, like working like with reality and working with real people and telling their stories. So I applied for documentary. Then I had only to apply 3 more times, and then I was here. Yeah, and then it was it was really a good thing to study documentary. I think if you're forced to tell real stories and meet real people, I think certainly at a young age it really helps you to tell stories later. I mean, being not only tied to your own memories and your own experiences.
Maybe to understand human nature better, the light and the darkness of human nature?
In a way, yes. And with the movie I wrote now for Tim, that was quite a journey in research before we actually started writing. So learning how to do research and how to interview witnesses and sources, that really helped.
Yeah, so let's make the transition to the last weeks. You traveled with a film that became an incredible hit worldwide on the festival circuit. Started in Venice, September 5, and now is on all the top lists for several Academy Awards categories. And you've just been to the US. Before you tell us about that journey, please put into words what September 5 in the essence is for you, what the film is about.
Well, the film is about the Olympic Games 1972 in Munich, where the attack on the Israeli athletes happened. But this film is telling it strictly from the perspective of the ABC crew, the sports crew who was there to cover the Olympics and paid a lot of money to be like the main TV channel there. And those sports journalists decided that day to switch from sports to breaking news, cover breaking news. And it was actually the first time an act like that was broadcasted live all over the world, and that really interested us, like the questions that came up with that while doing it, and this journalistic perspective that was the thing you wanted to do.
Before we dive in, what kind of setbacks that incorporated while developing the project, let's talk about the last few weeks. That was a kind of a different beast to live through. No, it's very intense to go to the US for an Oscar campaign, right?
Well, actually, I think I still have to process it because it's like a parallel universe. I mean, the thing is that it's all organized, and we never would have thought of anything like that happening when we started. And yeah, it's organized. You have to host a lot of screenings, a lot of Q&As. It's like driving from screening room to screening room. And yeah, it's amazing and it's frightening in the same way, like at the same time. But it was quite a journey, and I think I will have to process it for the next weeks, I think.
Okay, well, let's get more into detail, the juicy details. Who did you meet?
Well, the movie was produced by Sean Penn, so we met Sean Penn. I met him for the first time at the screening, and yeah, there were a lot. Like they really tried to get a celebrity to host every screening. So there was like Jake Gyllenhaal, for example, hosting one, and it was. But it was, I mean, meeting means like, I don't know, like 190 seconds talking to somebody and then he's gone again. So I really haven't met anybody real, but I saw a lot of people.
Okay, but tell us a bit about the US style of energizing people, because, okay, so basically it's a string of elevator pitches of, yeah, this is great, go on and so on. But it is indeed a sense of fulfillment, of energizing moments. How did you feel about that the last days?
Well, I always tried not to believe them too much, because if you're listening too much to them, you already have like won the Oscar. I mean, it's a long journey, and we're just on some lists, and it's a long way. And this actually is like an achievement we all would have never dreamed about. So. But yeah, they really want to give you the feeling like this is gonna happen, believe me. But what's really great is to see how film is treated there. Like what like in that culture, what film means to them, and what I mean the screening rooms. I mean, this is a nice screening room because this university is really well equipped and great. But in society, I mean, there's they put a high value to film as an art form, and that's pretty satisfying, yeah.
Now to the setbacks, to the incredible chain of setbacks that September 5 went through from the very beginning. Tim Fehlbaum, the director who also studied here at the university, is a long-standing friend and collaborator of yours. It is a lot of talent that comes from here that worked on the film. But it's been incredibly hard to put that into practice. So when did you specifically, at which point did you come in at the very moment? And you said interview techniques or reality infused your style. But how did it develop? Because as far as I recall, the first film or the first concept of the film was quite different, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was very different. So it started in December 2020. The producers, Thomas Phillip and Tim, the director, approached me, and they said they wanted to make a film about the events that took place on the 5th of September 1972, and they really wanted to approach it from multi-perspectives. Like, they really wanted to go into the police perspective and the political perspective, like all the politicians who were there, also the media. And I was actually quite lucky because I studied documentary. I had a friend who called me 2 weeks earlier to help her because she wanted to make a documentary about that day due to the 50th anniversary, and she wanted some help with putting that into a storyline. So I sat there for one day listening to all the facts she and her team had researched for 2 years, and I just helped them. And two weeks later, Thomas approached me and said, "What do you know about the 1st September of 72? And I told him stuff he never heard before. So this is, I think, why I got the gig. And then they wanted it to approach it from different perspectives, and we dug really deep into the research. I mean, the Stars Archive of Bavaria, they released new files due to the 50th anniversary, and some of them were like 800 pages. It was really quite very much stuff to go through. And at the same time, Constantin Film, the big studio in Germany, joined, and they said, okay, if we're gonna do this, we want to do this as a 2-hour movie for the cinema, and as a 2-parter for the TV, like 2 90-minute movies that has done before with Das Boot or the Bader Meinhof Complex. They wanted a movie like that, and so we started writing like that. And then it turned out that the first draft already had 140 pages, the second even more. So we wrote 4 drafts. The last had 170 pages. And they always loved the script, and we liked it too. But then something happened because they checked the financial side of that and said, okay, maybe it's too expensive. And then they pulled the plug, and then it was over. After 1 year, they pulled the plug and said, this is not going to work, and maybe you have something else for us in the future, but that's it.
So, meaning it stalled completely, not do a rewrite, but bye-bye project. And what happened then?
Bye-bye project, because they also said it only really makes sense, that approach, if we can make it to the 50th anniversary, and that wasn't possible. That wasn't possible in any way. So yeah, I wrote my agent, who's actually here, Christina. I wrote her, well, that didn't turn out. It really hurt, but they paid me. Maybe the next thing. But we were all really sad. It was like a little bit grieving, because we all saw something in that story, but maybe not what it was back then.
And also, it was your biggest gig up to then, no? Wasn't by far.
Yeah. I mean, there's like many setbacks until then, because you have to know that this was actually the first feature film I wrote that would have been made, but I wrote several feature films before that, like in my drawer, like dead projects or maybe zombie projects, but you never know if they come to life again. But yeah, there are like a lot of projects in my drawer that didn't work out, and those setbacks really hurt, because if you write like a feature film and then they're not able to do it, then you're alone with that setback, and you just take the script and put it in your drawer, and that's it. But with that setback, it was really different, because I had people around, the two producers and Tim, who had like a glimpse of fighting, like maybe this isn't over. And so we said, okay, we were just in deep denial. We said, okay, this is still alive. Let's find another approach. And this is when something happened, and this is why I called it the creative power of setbacks, when we had to be really honest to ourselves. Is this what we have written for the last year really our movie, or isn't there like a better movie in this? We can connect more as movie makers. And then we looked each other in the eye, Tim and I, and said, okay, what perspective was our favorite perspective? And then we said both, well, the media, because the media played such a crucial role in this whole thing. And it was something we really could connect to, like being in media, with all the questions that rise that day, that we say, well, okay, then let's take this 170-page script and just delete everything that's not media. And we had 20 pages. And then we said, okay, but it's not bad, those 20 pages. And then we started researching in this whole ABC world, started to find real sources, found a runner from back then who talked to us. He said, well, you actually have to talk to Jeffrey Mason. He's a producer who was in that room that day. Then we got that contact, and then we sat down with Jeffrey Mason, thinking we're talking to a source, and then this guy's 82. He started talking us through his 22 hours that day. And then we looked each other in the eye and said, well, I think that's our movie. Because he told it in such a thrilling way and detailed. And we said, okay, maybe this is not only a movie about a media, maybe this is a movie just about ABC, just in that studio. And then we said to everybody, please give us 6 weeks or some weeks. We're going to come up with a first draft again. And then we wrote that first draft, and then everything changed.
Just to be clear, already before that, it was an international project with international stars attached, or was that the very moment when you decided to, let's say, approach it from a US angle in a way?
That was the moment, and Thomas, one of the producers, he crossed fingers that he won't like the script, so that it won't become an international project depending on material from the ABC and licensing, all that. But he liked it, and he hated it that he liked it, because he said, okay, this is an American movie now, what should we do? I mean, it just had like different problems, but everybody liked that approach. And then we could start over again, and then many problems occurred for the producers mainly, but at least we had a movie we wanted to make.
It's a film that it's incredibly nuanced in its view on craft, on analog technology, and also in its connection to real footage. And if I remember right, I don't know who I talked to, that was also, I mean, there's so many situations that are kind of existential for the project. And one was, okay, if we have the angle of ABC, we need ABC footage, isn't it?
Yeah, even more than that. I mean, it's all, when you watch the movie, there's like a key main character, Jim McKay, and he's the host back then, who's like in studio reporting on the events. And of course, this is all owned by ABC, the whole material, but we wrote it in there, and just were hoping that we get it licensed. And we didn't have all the material yet, so the producer started to hunt for that license while we were writing that script. And we found some snippets in open source, tried to integrate those, and we just got the license 3 weeks before shooting. And this is where we just got all the material. And this is where we found so much more in that material that we had to open up the script again. I remember that the last reel came like, I think, 5 days before shooting. And there was a very important scene in that reel. So we had to open up the script again and rewrite it on the last weekend, which was not very pleasing for the whole team who has prepped everything. But it was like, it was pretty close. And now, I mean, this is like we're under us, so I can be honest. We always say we had a plan B, but actually we didn't really have a plan B, what to do if you don't get that material, because it wouldn't have been affordable to reshoot everything. So the real Jeffrey Mason, like who helped us so much, he always said, well, I know Bob, and he meant Bob Iger, the CEO of Disney. Maybe he can help us. And we all thought, well, maybe he's just bragging a little bit. But actually, a few weeks before the shooting, Bob Iger was the CEO of Disney again. So the producer said, can we please now call him? And he said, well, I think he has other things to do on his first week. And they said, yeah, but then one day he wrote Bob Iger, and within minutes he replied, said, yeah, that's okay. We will make this happen. And this is where we actually, for the first time, had the movie. Like, yeah.
Who has seen the trailer? Who has not seen the trailer? So this is for you. We have a special treat for you, because before we go on, we show you the US trailer, fresh. We have it here, and I think that gives a bit of an idea of the tension of the film.
Ready, camera one. Hit it.
Good morning, I'm Jim McKay speaking to you live from the Olympics in Munich, West Germany.
Talk me through the day.
Starts with volleyball, then there's boxing.
Good. It's America versus Cuba.
Sure you want to bring in the politics?
It's not about politics. It's about emotions.
Good
And we're clear.
Great job, everyone.
Do you hear that?
Were those gunshots?
What's the situation?
The police are reporting that armed terrorists have attacked the Israeli athletes.
There's a hostage situation going on right now in the Olympic Village.
ABC wants news to take over.
Your sports, you're in way over your head.
400 yards away from where this is happening.
We are the only people capable of following it live. This is our story, and we're keeping it.
What do I tell the cameras?
What do you mean?
I mean, can we show someone being shot on live television?
We're on.
The piece of what have been called the Serene Olympics was shattered this morning. The games are still going on. Within a few hundred yards, 9 terrified living human beings are being held prisoner.
You need to understand how sensitive the situation is.
These are just local cops doing things they have never done before.
We'll make it broadcast history. More people have seen this than watch Armstrong land on the moon.
Now, police are on the roof.
Oh, guys.
That's a TV. Are they seeing what we're seeing?
What are you talking about?
Are the terrorists seeing this?
Our job is to tell the story of these individuals whose lives are at stake.
It's not okay if we made it worse.
It's a madhouse down here.
They know the whole world is watching. If they shoot someone on live television, whose story is that? Is it ours or is it theirs?
We could go on to talk about the art of trailering. Actually, that's the interesting thing is that the intensity that is super propelled here is the film. It's about tension. It's with the team, Tim at the helm, Markus as DOP, you writing. It is a true team that wants grittiness in not German-speaking cinema. It's not, but coming out of Germany or Germany, Switzerland to be more exact. No, with Swiss talent attached. So anyhow, maybe a question about what is important, because sometimes one has the feeling that some German filmmaking is a filmmaking that has an internal break, that's not left loose. So share a bit of maybe your insight on what is intense filmmaking, suspense filmmaking, gritty filmmaking. What is at the core of that for you when it comes to screenwriting and putting it then to screen?
Deleting, I would say. Delete. I mean, when you write a script, I think the first draft before we put it out was like 110 pages or something. And I wrote it with Tim together, and I have to say that the way I work is always to really write the scene fast, not overthink it, try to make it alive before overthinking it, and then Tim comes with a big knife and it's cutting it down to its core again. And I think this is what really is important, and it's very good, I think, if you're like two writers on something, that one is like providing the scene, and it's because if you write a scene, you're like stepping into a room and looking around for yourself and describing what you see. So you kind of writing what you think the scene is about. And then if you have another pair of eyes saying, well, the scene actually is about that, let's cut all the other details you have seen in your room by writing that, then it makes it like short. And Tim was really good at making it short and about the thing and about the rhythm. And we always said, okay, we can't go over 90 minutes with this. We have to be really, because what Jeffrey Mason told us, he said, we didn't have time. And I mean, this was 22 hours, but we didn't have time to think about anything. We just wanted to make it happen, and we just wanted to report on it. So there was no it was like a rush, and we wanted to let the people feel this rush.
The other part of that, you just said very nice things about Tim. The other part is you. You have to be very open, and that the words you have written are kind of slashed. How do you develop that kind of mindset that really makes this all a collaborative process? Or was that always inside you? Or did you have to learn that Kill Your Darling is a very natural part of the process?
I think the worst case for writers sometimes is writing a script and then handing it to the director, because then he or she has to make that story her own. You know, like they really, when you say okay, if you approach someone and say this is my perfect script, this is nuanced, this is balanced, this is the work, it's hard for a director to find their own approach in it without opening it again. But if you're writing with the director, you have those fights in every scene, like for weeks, which is really worth it, because then you come out with a scene both of you love. So I wouldn't say that it's like self-protection in a way, because if you're like hide in your room for weeks, coming out with a perfect script, this will mean just that it's gonna end in pain for you, I think. And I have to say it was the other way around with Tim. Tim said, okay, when he started prepping, he said, I want you every day on set. So I think that's the other side. That's the counter offer. He wanted me every day on set, because when the rehearsal with the actors happens and they have like a problem or something they don't understand, or something they wanted to change, then you are there either defending what you wrote or saying, no, let's go with yours. Yours is way better. Rewriting it on set and handing out the new pages. And then it's always like the feeling of it's still our story we are going to tell here. And so this was like a two-sided offer.
So you can basically say this is truly still your film, which not always happens, I suppose, for screenwriters.
That's true. But then, like one of the biggest parts happens, obviously, the editing. And this is where I stepped out, because then it's good to have like a fresh pair of eyes looking at the different versions. But the editing was crucial, because Tim, you have to know, Tim wanted the whole studio to be built. Like normally you have your like maybe storyboarding or saying, okay, I want that angle and that scene and that close up on that director. No, he wanted to have the actual studio. So the whole studio was built inside a studio, and two cameras moved around in that studio like a annoying documentary team. That like there was no scene that wasn't shot from the beginning to the end. There were no pickups, no close-ups. It was just the whole scene again and again and again from different angles with two cameras, which helps the film a lot, but which makes the editing hell. I mean, it's like there's so much material. So Hans-Jörg Weisbrich, the editor, did a really great job in finding all those gems hidden in that pool of material.
Yeah, well, he's known for tackling these projects that he, in a way, it's not only a pair of new fresh eyes, he's really constructing that film again. But I suppose you can tell us less about that phase of the film coming together. So again, maybe you have questions at that very specific point. I would like to open it up. There are still a million questions to ask, but please jump in. Yes, please. Did Mr. Mason see the film in the US?
Yeah, Jeffrey not only have seen the film, he read every script. He was able to see all the material that was shot on every day, and then he saw the script. He saw the film, and this is actually the biggest compliment we got, is that he said, "Well, you really took me back in that room, and you really captured the feeling we all had that day." And yeah, he's really proud of that. I mean, the main character in the movie is named after him, Jeffrey Mason. So he's actually very proud of that film. Yeah.
Other questions? If not, I would. Was there? No. Sorry. I would like to take you back to a phrase you just said, or we talked about. So there are sometimes hurtful experiences or setbacks, and this seems like in the end as a very gratifying experience, as we talked about. So tell us about the way before. There were many more projects, of course, you worked on. You said many were shelved, not put into existence. Would you like to share one specific experience that's both hurtful and insightful?
Yeah, I can tell you about. I mean, I'm a very big Western fan since my childhood, so this is like a genre I'm very much into. And then one day there was a Western competition here happening at the university. I was still a student for the best Western treatment, and then I won that. And the first prize was like the money to write a first draft, and I didn't only write a first draft, I wrote like many drafts, but it never happened because it was just not financially not possible. And I think they then found out that maybe Western isn't a genre that isn't working so good at the box office, so they stalled it. But the big difference, I would say, is like every word I put in that script I really loved, and so it was really painful to put that into the shelf. But with the first version of that, we always had the feeling of, is this really our story? And everybody said, no, that's really like, it's a good thriller, it's working. And we said, okay, if everybody's happy, we're gonna write that multi-perspective thing. But the moment when it didn't work out, we kind of were relieved because we thought something was not right about that approach. And now we are more than happy that this happened, because then we found the right approach. Then we could approach it from the side we really felt something. And I think this is a very good thing in some setbacks, is to wait a second, to rethink and start feeling what was it that I was in love with while writing it. And then focusing on that feeling, that approach. And sometimes then, and it was, I mean, it really worked out, but sometimes there's a second chance to prove it.
You talked about the tension, both in the run-up to the film and on set, that helped the actors. We didn't talk about one tension, and that is to bring that project together, basically, on the production side while you are writing it. We talked about the material from ABC. We haven't talked about the role of Sean Penn or the incredible cast. Is there also some story that you would like to share, if somebody came on only 2 weeks earlier or whatever?
Yeah, I mean, let's take it back to Thomas, who really wanted to not liking the script because he had foreseen all the problems, because the last project of Tim and his was already international, and it was such a pain in the ass to find the cast. Because if you have like an international cast as a German company, the agency won't pass the script to the talent. Rarely. Then you can't like spread it out like dynamite fishing. You have really to say, okay, I'm approaching your talent. You have like 6 or 8 weeks. Can you please say if he's interested or not? So they really knew about that, and then they hadn't like one character who had to be an American actor. There were like 5 or 6. So they knew instantly, okay, this is not going to happen if we just produce it from Germany. We had the luck that Markus Förderer, the DP who worked on that and worked on Tim's films before, he worked on a movie called Red Notice, which was like a big Netflix movie. And there he met a guy, John Wildermuth, who just founded the company together with a friend, John Palmer, and Sean Penn. And he knew about that it happened recently. And he said, I can pass the script to those guys. And he did that. And the funny thing was that in the moment where we could write September 5 produced by Sean Penn in that email, we got like, the answers, they were not only, not everybody said yes, but at least they said it within days, not weeks. So that really helped, that the talent read the script, which is pretty hard when you don't have that person who vouches for it.
And the talent coming together was like, I mean, the fixed cast, the incredible cast, including, by the way, Leonie Binisch from Germany. When was it basically? When were you at the moment rewriting with a specific character or face in your mind?
I came late, I have to say, because the bigger the name is, the closer to the project you have to approach them, because they only say yes if they don't have anything else in that 6 weeks or something. So like Peter Sarsgaard, who was the biggest name in that cast, he came on late. Leonie actually was the first one. She read the first draft. She said, okay, I will do that. But the other actors came on pretty late, and they come to the shooting pretty tight. I mean, they come on like a few days before the first shooting day. So the first table read is maybe 3 days, 4 days, maybe a week before shooting. But the big thing is they all come prepared. That was pretty impressive. Everybody who came that late had already a version of that character and said, I want to approach it like that. So you don't start from the beginning.
How important is a certain level of respect for the material, or even anxiety, or I don't know, an insecurity? I'm telling you this because, of course, because of the political quality that's inherent in the material of September 5, but also when it comes to tackling different projects recently, such as, not everybody in this room will know, but tackling the TATORT, the last Munich TATORT for a team of inspectors or policemen after they did 100 different cases, and you're doing basically, I think, the farewell for them, or tackling a very beloved character for many people here in Germany, Pumuckl, and doing the new script for this character. There's a great deal of responsibility, respect, or, as I said, insecurity involved, I suppose.
Yeah, but I think that, yeah, you're totally right, but I think that always helps to have respect for the material, especially when you do something based on true events, or if you do something which is very beloved by a lot of people. That it helps to have respect, and it helps to have anxiety. I think the biggest or the greatest ideas come out of really respecting something, if you then are willing to ignore that. But to feel it in the first place, the responsibility to feel everything helps you to find your perspective on it, helps you to find your approach. And if you have that approach, then you will lose the respect and you will lose the fear. But if you don't lose the fear and the respect, then maybe that means that you didn't found your perspective on the story. Something that you can really like sit on a stage and fight for. And yeah, I think fear and respect and doubt brings you to that point.
Again, there's the chance to ask questions. Yes, please. Was there ever a moment when you felt you really made it?
You're asking somebody with a really big imposter syndrome, so I would say no, not really. I mean, the thing is that I never trust success, because there was a feeling where I was really proud is when this script worked out and so many people got attached to the project. I mean, that the company of Champagne says, okay, we don't know you, but we like the script. And that the talent says, I want to act in that. That made me really proud. But, you know, like with the things happening now, that hasn't really much to do with the script. This is like a momentum thing. I mean, we showed that in Venice in the side section, like Horizonti Extra. So it means like it was really like a special. Number 2, no, it's really like really hidden, and the journalists still found it, and wrote really well about it. I mean, they were allowed to release the critics half an hour after the movie starts. So when the credits rolled, the producer gave me his smartphone and just flipped through the headlines. This was the moment where I really felt proud, because it was purely the movie. Now with this whole Oscar campaign thing and all the things attached to that, that's kind of a big company seeing an opportunity and seeing a momentum in that. So I think it's pretty healthy to not attach that kind of success to your work, because that would mean if it wouldn't have been that successful, would have been also your fault. So I think until a certain point, you can take responsibility for success and failure, but from a certain point, how it does at the box office, or how, like, is it an awards circuit or something? I think you have to detach from that concept of feedback.
Other questions? Yes, please. 1 and 2. Yes.
I was pretty old because, I didn't have the Allgemeine Abitur, which is the high school degree. I had a Fachabitur, which is you're not allowed to study here if you have that. So I had to work before that, and I worked in television and learned a lot during that years. And so that's a long answer for a really short question. I was 27 when I started here. I was 27. I was one of the oldest in my year, but I brought a lot of experience from this whole TV world, which actually helped me a lot here to write that.
Please.
Yes, I think there are a lot of directors and producers here in the room. Could you, from your vantage point of a screenwriter, tell us what are the traits that you regard highly in a director or a producer, and maybe which one you hate?
Oh.
I would say it's the same. It's like having an opinion, because then you can rely to something. And there were times where I fought the producers or the director, or they fought me, but at least I knew, okay, if we can clear this out and find a way, then they will stand for that. And I think reliability, very difficult word, is a very rare and a very good thing with having a producer, for example, because then if the studio comes, I mean, later Paramount got in, a really big studio. If they would have said, we would like to make it more of an action movie or something, you have to have a producer who says, no, that's not our movie. And not a producer say, yeah, of course, we will make that happen, because it's a very high financial risk. And I don't blame any producer who hasn't like this very strict opinion, but I just don't want to work for them. I mean, because it's really hard to be always the guy who has to react to all kind of feedback.
Other questions? Yes, please.
That's a good question. I think one of the best advices I got was stick around long enough until you and the people you are studying with become the industry. And I thought, yeah, man, I heard that on stage from an old guy like me. And I said, yeah, sure, man, stick around. But it's actually true. It's true because I remember all those industry parties I had to sneak in. Suddenly I was invited. And suddenly there were people around working in the industry I knew from back then. And it's very crucial to meet people while studying, because then it's not a strategical, or it's not like you're not meeting somebody already connected to a project that's about money or something. If you meet somebody in university, it's always about the project itself. And people will remember that. People will remember, and I told that earlier to Christoph, 100% of the jobs I have now are from friends I studied with, because they always go back to the people they knew before they got like successful. And also I really love this thought of helping each other. That's another thing. I mean, I was very privileged and lucky that like a friend of mine, Ali Riza Golafshan, who's like a well-known director now, and he's one of my best friends, when he became like, he got like his first 2 movies, he always brought in talent from the university that didn't have any experience yet, but he relied on us. And finding those people while you are studying, I think, is the main reason why you should study.
Please.
How do you deal with like congruence, or like when there's like many people in the pool, or like you compare yourself to other people? Because I feel like that's a huge setback for me personally. Like that's my biggest insecurity, or not insecurity, but like that's just the thing where I lose most of my motivation, because I'm like, okay, fuck, there's like so many people. Also in this room, for example, like so much talent, how do I stand out? Like we have some sort of like way of thinking of that.
I made the same mistake while studying. And the thing is, you're always comparing yourself to somebody who gets invited to a fancy festival, or has like a movie picked up by a big studio or something. And you all think, okay, well, why isn't that me? And I think sometimes it's very important to make that mistake, because out of that frustration, again, negative feeling, maybe you find something that is really something only you can tell. And I think always that I mean, they approached me with that story and we found something, and I think only I could write this like this because I have been to the television and I studied documentary, and from a certain moment on I thought, okay, I'm the right guy to write this. And if you're in university and comparing yourself to others, I think it's always a sign for, I really have to think, what is my approach? What is my view to this world? And I know that's a really cheesy answer, and I heard that answer so many times when I was a student, but it always comes back to that, what is your movie? And nobody else can write your movie. And if you write your movie, or if you direct your movie, I think, or produce your movie, then you don't have to compare to others anymore.
How do you approach the blank page nowadays with that sense? You called it imposter syndrome, productive insecurity, could be something else, doubt. Is it like, oh, hi, old friend, let's go to the first pages, they will be crap, and then afterwards it goes better from there?
This is why I always write so fast, to get rid of that blank page. No, I really, this is the way I'm working, is sometimes writing faster than thinking. Just write. And then there is something. And then you can read it and you can throw it away. You can condense it, whatever. But I think overthinking it is a problem in every creative discipline. At least for me, I have to have some, maybe that's why I studied documentary, to have something there I can work with. If it's a real story, a real person, something that I read somewhere, but I have to have something. And if there is nothing, I have to create that something I can work with. So, yeah, the blank page isn't a real friend of mine, I have to say.
Of no one, I guess. Yes, please.
Well, with that, actually, they really needed something really fast for the funding. So this is like, it's always good to have a deadline. Because I think otherwise you always think, oh no, there's something else hidden in the research. I have to dig deeper. Sometimes it helps to lie to yourself. Just to say, okay, this is the story, and then this or this happens. And you just pretend that this is the story. but you know that like in there are these lies, there's little lies, these blank pages, or this spots you have to fill with real research, but you know what you want to tell, because when you are lying on the page, you already have kind of some kind of like arc in the story, and then you have a goal in the research to find moments that fit into that arc. So for me, deadlines are very important, really important. I think this is a really important part of a creative process to have deadlines. But I have to say that I was so lucky because it was so much research material that I was not alone. I mean, Tim did the research, the two producers, they hired someone who did research, and me, there were like 5 people involved in the whole research, sometimes even 8. So they fed me with gems they found while writing. But I always like want to, I mean, I always think that getting into the writing process as early as possible helps you to keep it flowing. But that's just me. That's not something I wanna give as like an advice, but that helps me.
There would be time for 2 to 3 more questions. 1 and 2.
I think we are on a good way because there's such a big crisis right now that I think that the big studios don't know what to do anymore. And this is our time. Because now they have to, instead of putting out one movie with, let's say, 10 million, 15 million, 20 million budget, they have to split it up and maybe do 10 movies with a way smaller budget, because they don't really know what works at the box office anymore. And my wish would be that they continue on that, because I think when Everything Everywhere All at Once won the Academy Award, that was a sign nobody would have made that movie for a big budget, like aiming for Oscars and box office. It was just creative people getting together, having an idea. And I think it's always when the industry and the capitalism in a way, or like the money flow doesn't work anymore in the industry, they have to go back, take a step back and let the creatives go again. And I think this is what's happening now, because they don't know how to make products for everybody anymore. So they have to make many products for many. And I think this is our time. Our time is like the next 10 years, I think, in cinema, not on the streamers. I think it's the other way around. I think they know what works with their audience. I'm very particular, I'm very strict what they want. I think they will figure it out later, but I think the whole cinema industry now knows that they need us and our ideas.
Oh, that's a wonderful approach, I must say. Yes.
Just quickly talking about the question before that, the structure and the chaos. Like, you were talking about all these bits of pieces and people you were in contact with, especially Tim as a co-writer. Where does it all come together? Is it like the wall in front of your desk where you have like many little pieces of paper? Is it all your head, or do you have like a shared cloud where you co-write and see what the other person did meanwhile?
So you talked about a very complex process between structure and chaos. Where does it all together? Does it come together in a cloud, on a dashboard, whatever?
Well, it comes together, I think, in 2 drafts, like 2 draft versions. Tim was sitting in Basel, Switzerland, with one draft, and I was sitting in Munich, and we had a constant Zoom link, like for 8 hours, 9 hours, and you could just hear the other guy writing something. But if you had a question, you could ask him. And we tried that whole collab thing on Final Draft, but it always crashed. And it's pretty annoying seeing the other cursor changing something in your script. That doesn't work. But we split up the script, or I just sent it out like a scene to him. Like I said, I don't know about that scene. I really love it, but at 3 pages, can you make it 1 page? And he said, no problem. And he striked out, like visually, I could see what he striked out of respect to me. And I said, you don't have to do that, just delete it. And it comes together in 2 or 3 different scripts, and then you have to put those scripts together. And then I think the wall with the many pages, it's pretty, but you have to be in the same room, which is sometimes really hard to do. But yeah, that's the way we worked, at least.
Another question over there. How do you create scenes that have tension, a thriller scene? How do you know it works?
The good thing is that Jeffrey Mason took us through his day, and he had like this major plot points already in his narration. And the thing is with the thriller, I learned that with that, is that you really can't tell with one scene, because you really have to see it always in the context of build up, release, next problem. And in the first drafts, that worked pretty good, but it was always like A, B. And then we had to start to layer it, like creating scenes that have like all problems that are coming like in different magnitudes, like different sizes. And then I think you're good, like, I don't know who said it. I think Paul Schrader said it. When you have like the story, the whole story, just meet with a friend, tell him 2/3 of that thing, go to the toilet, go back, and if he asks you how does it end, you know that you have a thrilling story. If he changes subjects, you know, oh man, okay, I have to work on that first, because I really think that telling people over, you need to have a lot of friends to tell it freshly. But telling helps yourself to condense it. I think that's pretty important.
So last question from my side. When are you most creative through the day for writing?
Morning. I would say in the morning, and I hate that I give that answer because I hated it as a student to hear, oh, mornings. But no, when you have kids, I have 2 daughters, the moment they're leaving, I have to run to the office, and then I'm like I think I'm the freshest then. And then I think the least creative thing is after lunch. There's no chance.
Well, I don't think the audience has this feeling. You have been insanely creative from 3 to 4 o'clock in this afternoon. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Moritz
Thank you so
Binder.
much for coming.